Hi everyone, this is Peter Ong of Rester Age Advisory. Welcome to episode 6 of Opportunities Unusual. Today we cover a topic which has many articles written about it. It is simple to understand, but in experience it is really difficult to implement. The topic we cover today is how to accelerate the development and the readiness of your next in-line leaders. Let's start with a bit of a story. In 2014, Germany won the FIFA World Cup. And do you know what's the strongest reason cited for Germany's success? The strongest reason cited is that Germany at that time has 11 exceptional players as the main team, with 4 of them, the goalkeeper, the fullback, the midfielder, and a young striker, forming what is called a perfect quartet. In addition to that, Germany has a full bench of young talents ready to play as reserves and substitute. That got them to the World Cup champion, to be World Cup champion in 2014. However, in 2000, Germany was at a very different state. It has an ailing team, and it finished right at the bottom of the group in the European Championship. What happened in the 14 years since 2000? Well, Germany put in a youth development program that had football academies across all Division 1 and Division 2 players that looks at the young players. This, in turn, gave them a planned progression of young talents to be escalated up into the country's main football team. They had a lot of strong, next-in-line players. Well, if you have many layers of competent, capable, committed next-in-line leaders in the wings of your organization, this is probably the strongest predictor of success. It's one of the most important ingredients for being a world beater for your company, for your industry. It's a lot like playing a poker game, knowing that you have a lot of aces or a lot of big cards up your sleeve, and that you could do a 4 aces, or you could do a royal flush. It is a good feeling to have. If you have developed your next in line leaders, you have kept them, and they are all ready for expansion or for succession. Let us take a step back. If we talk about talent management and succession management, what are the 4 main processes that your company must think about? The first process is called search. Usually companies have a good program for search for young leaders, young associates, and for senior leaders, and for mid-career level people. Then you have a way to distinguish the very best within your company. Let's call this process sort. So we have search, we have sort. After that, you have a very important process, and this is where most companies, in my experience, don't do it very well. It's called support. After we've sought who are the real potential, who are the real talent, who are the next in line leaders, we have to support them exceptionally well to get them to the final stage of the process, which is to succeed. To succeed someone in a high job, in a top job, or in a mission critical job. So there it is. If we step back, talent management and succession management 101, you have to search, you have to sort, you have to support, and then you must have your talent succeed. You don't want to be part of the 73% of companies that end off with supporting their talents and their talent goes elsewhere. To illustrate about this rather expensive topic of how to accelerate your next in-line leaders, let me use 3 real client examples. I've never shared these client examples before. I'm sure you understand I'll have to mask the client's identity, the client's name, and the industry that the client operates in. The first person I want to talk about, let's call her Miss A. This same time last year, her HR leader for Asia Pacific calls me, and I do not know this person. He calls me and he said, Peter, some member in our board, a board member, suggested that you could be the executive coach for Miss A. Turns out when I met this HR leader for Asia Pacific, Miss A is to be promoted 2 levels up her grade to be the CEO of Singapore and Malaysia operations. This is a big win for the local community to have someone non-expatriate to hold this role. And I felt very privileged when I met up with her. We clicked really well, and she says she will have me as an executive coach. When I met up with Miss A, instinctively I was looking for Miss A's promise. Let me share with you the Rest Age Advisory's promise equation. When I look at a person's promise, I look for 4 things. 1, do they have the ability to perform at a very high level? This is called performance. Almost every executive that's promoted have very high performance. In fact, many of them have a bias towards performance, but we all know from a dual strategy, that's only one part of the hamburger, because the other part is potential. So the next P to the promise equation of Rested Age is, do you have the performance and do you have the potential? And I could see that Miss A had both of that. The third P I look for is called pertinent prioritization. Is Miss A able to prioritize along with the demands of the company? So if the company says we need someone in Vietnam, Miss A will say, okay, I go to Vietnam. That will mean pertinent prioritization. That this executive not just have performance, potential, he or she is able to prioritize his or her priority along with the corporate priority. Miss A clearly had that. And then I look for the 4th P, which is called principle. Is this a principled person with ethics, with morals, all in the right place? And Miss A ticked all of the boxes. So just last week, Miss A and myself, we had our 4th executive coaching session together. Under lockdown, we had it over a video call, and we were talking about leading diversity. And I could see that Miss A has grown nicely into this role. So a year ago, when the HR executive, the leader, looked me up, he wanted to protect Miss A's success, protect the transition's success. And now, 8-9 months into her role, we are all happy that she is blossoming beautifully into an executive, into a CEO with good competency, with strong commitment, with good compassion, and with good capability. When I look back at the numbers of people that I work with, last year I had the wonderful privilege to work with 77 executives, middle to very senior. 29 of them were promoted last year or this year. So executive coaching, or one of the top, most important face-to-face interventions to help a person succeed well in the role, is one of the interventions which organizations can consider to accelerate the development and the readiness of your next in-line leader. For the sake of time, let's move on to the second client story. The second client story, I got to know the managing director. Let's call him managing director. He runs a family business and he's a self-made person. So this is generation 1 of a family business. And when we met up and began to talk to one another over dinner about 2 years ago, he shared with me his vision of retiring and wanting his children to kind of take over. This was 2 years ago, and right now, just 2 months ago, 3 of his children, he has 3 children, and all 3 were promoted to vice president level. So this is another form of intervention for your next in-line leaders. You kind of optimize your organization, you kind of enlarge the accountabilities of the next in-line leader that you want to groom. You kind of rotate them a little bit across the place, and then you kind of elevate the entire cohort together. In time to come, there might be a first amongst equals in the 3 children, and this person would have the mandate and the nomination of his or her siblings to take the organization forward. So if you're running a family-based business, succession is one of the toughest and most sensitive topics to think about, and it is important to kind of think about organizational optimization, roles and accountabilities expansion, together with executive coaching of the people that are to be elevated, to be considered, and give everyone with capability a fair shot to be the first amongst equals. So Mr. B, if we call this person Mr. B, his company is partway, 2/3 way in the process to him retiring as the managing director and to his children taking over as a complete management team, and perhaps with one of them taking over as the first amongst equals, with his or her siblings' support and with the parents and the professional leaders' support. Now, let's move on to the last client story I want to share with you. As you can see, I have a lot of stories. I have no time to share. So I'm going to share with you a story about succession. This harks back perhaps 11, maybe 10 years ago. 9 years ago, when I began to know this person, I asked him stories. He was already group CEO at that time. And I asked him, how do you guarantee that you can find a position for your next in-line leader? Of course, that's a very prickly situation because your leader feels ready. He or she may feel really anxious to want to take over that position, and perhaps there is no vacancy. That's a perennial chicken and egg issue. He told me, and to my shock, he says this is his way with leaders, and he used 4 statements which I've since learned and incorporated into my teaching. He says if he finds a next in line leader directly under him, if he or she has real promise, like remember, performance, potential, platinum prioritizations, also principle, of course that's the Rest Age advisory way of seeing things. If he or she have real promise, this guy, let's call him Mr. C, he will go to them and say, I think you are very good and I want you to stay. Let's create a strong shared future for our company together, you and I. Let's create a strong shared future of the company together. I want you to stay. I think you are very good. When you are ready to succeed me, if you are better than I am, even if I'm still steady and performing, if you are the better person, I will vacate my job for you. The job will be yours. So Mr. C goes around in his entire career looking for people to mentor, people to inspire, to have that shared vision, and he always kept his promise. How did he keep his promise? He kept his promise by staying rested and being on the edge, never being in maintenance mode. So he himself was also elevated. And as he's elevated, the best team leader under him, whom he says all those statements to, gets elevated as well. And everyone is happy. So when I met him about 10 years ago, we talked about it and I understood how he could create that pyramid of success. He had many beautiful, exceptional, wonderful people working for him. He had many perfect quartets working for him, many aces up his sleeve, because he has says this and he has developed and mentored a lot of people. He had helped a lot of people succeed. So what are the 4 aspects of talent and succession management? Let me recap again for you. You search, you sort, you support, and you want to support all the way to a beautiful succession. If you can get this right, your company will be really, really strong. I'm going to end off today with a bit of a joke. I've still not told jokes yet at Opportunities Unusual. I'm going to tell you a joke which my wife told me, and she says, what do you say when you get locked out of the house? Or what do you do when you get locked out of the house? And her answer was, talk to the lock, because communication is the key. Okay. Talk to the lock because communication is the key. It's a pretty good joke, isn't it? So I'm going to end off on a serious note after the joke. I shared this joke with you because during the live stream of episode 2, business leader who is concerned asked this question which I answered live on the spot. And I quote, if I were to share my burdens with my core team members and companies. In episode 2, we were talking about stabilizing yourself, your team, and your company. And I had one point about if you could share successes with your core team, why couldn't you share your burdens? So his question was, if I were to share my burdens with my core team members and my entire company, what happens if my leaders and my next in line leaders, the best of the company, leave because they see little prospect to remain? I had shared with him at that time in my answer that there are 2 critical success factors. If you are developing next in line leaders, one of the critical success factor is called communication. That's why my joke previously. Communication is important. By you, the leader, if you're the business leader right at the top, communication by you and the people around them who are senior to them, sending the signal that you are very, very valuable, you are very good. We want you to have a shared vision with us, stay with us and let us strike the future together. That communication is very, very important. And if 6 to 8 senior leaders say that to that next in line leader, that next in line leader is likely to feel really special, keep on contributing, keep on improving his or her promise, and really not likely to leave. The second critical success factors in my mind is, of course, from a corporate standpoint, to have career development, role expansion, accountability expansion, opportunities along the way as this person is contributing stronger and stronger to the company. You don't want this next in line leader's career to feel stagnate or to be in some kind of limbo during the time that they're giving their very best years to the company. So if we do these 2 critical success factors, we communicate strongly with a lot of seniors sharing the same message, and we proactively look at the development and the accelerated accountability expansion of this leader, very unlikely this leader will leave. So I have covered today's topic. I hope it's useful for you. It's a very difficult topic, very difficult for us to build the arcs. Probably simple to understand, difficult to implement, all the way from search, all the way to succeed. But if you do that well, you've got aces up your sleeve. This is one of the strongest ingredients to guarantee that your company's very best years remain ahead and not behind it. It is a foundation for long-term success. To whet your appetite, what is next week's episode about? Next week, we will be covering how to evolve and transform your business model. A lot of us have probably thought, I need to go digital. But maybe that's not the only thing you need to think about for your business model. So what are the complexities there? How could we simply get ahead to evolve and transform the business model? Your company's business model will be the meat of our next topic. I hope you join me next week. I hope you enjoy today's session. And if you find it useful for you, please do like and share this video so that more people could benefit. Thank you very much. See you next week. Bye bye.